buddy. Come here, sit. Good boy. Sit. Oliver, sit. Come here. There we go. Good boy. Yes. Here. You just don't care what's happening out there. It's okay. Yes. Actually, let's restart you so you can go find it. Don't touch the phone. So here I'm actually going to consent test. So consent testing, I want to see if he's able to focus and eat food. So he's obsessing over my handful of food here. So I'm assuming he's able to do that. He's pretty focused on me. He's not looking out the door like he was doing before. He is showing me that he's pretty comfortable. He's sitting, which is a pretty relaxed position. He's orienting towards me, which is nice and relaxed. There he's getting a little bit distracted, so I kind of pay attention to that. The dog next door is barking, so he's a little concerned, yes, about what's going on there. So is he calm? Yes. He's able to focus and eat food. Is he comfortable? I would say pretty much yes. He's a little worried about the dog, but for the most part, showing me that he's pretty comfortable. He's not dodging away from me. He's not trying to avoid me. There, he's distracted. There we go. He's not being mouthy. He's not trying to hump my arm. Any of those things he was doing in the last video. Yes. And then he's also giving consent, meaning he's voluntarily participating. Again, orienting towards me. He's not facing the other direction like he was before. And he is, yes, choosing to sit here and engage. The way to get him away from me is actually to throw a piece of food to get him away. And then if he comes back, then we can restart. If he doesn't come back, I don't get to restart, right? So I want to make sure that he's giving consent. He's saying, okay, now I'm ready to move forward. He actually, there's a person walking by, so he went to go check them out. So we're going to let him go do that for a minute. And when he wants to play, he'll come back. So right there, he just ran straight back to me, pretty excited. He has a pretty floofy tail there. There we go. So I always wait till he's a little bit calmer. I don't want to do a lot of handling when he's all riled up with that high tail. Yes. But I didn't call him back. I didn't do anything that told him he was supposed to come here. I just waited for him, and when he was ready, he came back to play. So I always need to make sure I'm consent testing and doing things at his pace and when he's ready for it. And if I do that, if I really focus on always asking for consent, he's going to start trusting me a lot more. He's going to start giving consent a lot more. And he's not going to be kind of as weirded out as he was before. Because when I was petting him before, he's not a dog that wants to be touched for reassurance. He's a dog that kind of wants direction for reassurance. Yes. So every dog is different, just like every person is different. Some people are super huggy and touchy-feely and want that contact. And some people aren't really about that. They don't really want that. It's not that he doesn't like to be touched. It's not like he, doesn't like me or any of those things. It's just it's not his love language, right? That's not how he wants to engage with me. So we have to teach him that we're trustworthy and we're going to be respectful of his boundaries. And if that's the case, he's going to start letting those boundaries down a lot more. So again, like with people, even the people that are not very touchy-feely, they still have some people that they tend to be comfortable with and tend to be more comfortable being touched by. So I have a particular friend that if I ran over and gave her a hug, she would not be super stoked about it. So I don't tend to do that. But I do know that her family hugs her, and that's totally fine, and she is fine with that and enjoys that. So it's all about those relationships that you're creating. And because this isn't my dog, he doesn't live with me, I have, yes, limited time to create a relationship. So I want to make sure that we're doing it all consensually. I want to make sure that he wants to do this. So I'm just doing the body handling exercise. If you're not familiar with what this is, I definitely want you to look that up and get more familiar with it. There's some info on this in the handouts. There's also a video on body handling in both the puppy pre-K course and the 201 course. I've done a couple other body handling videos too, so you can look through the group to find some of those. But we're gonna wait for a second because see how he lost focus, right? So I'm gonna pause. But I wanna see eventually if I can kind of like rub on him and love him a little bit more and, you know, scruffle him and do all those things that I like to be able to do with a floofy doodle. We like to be able to get in there and mess with them. They're so soft and snuggly. But I want to make sure I'm not taking advantage of him being soft and snuggly. Just because he's cute doesn't mean I get to touch. So I want to make sure that I've worked up to this and I've taught him that it's actually a good thing for some strange lady to come scruffle your ears, because that's something that I think is totally valid for him to not think is totally okay. Just like if I was out in public and someone just ran over and started giving me a big hug. First of all, they shouldn't be anywhere near me and they should be wearing a mask. But if they did that, I would be pretty weirded out about it if I hadn't given consent for that behavior to happen. It doesn't mean that we have to be super formal about, okay, are you giving consent? Is this what consent looks like? We don't have to like have a conversation with the dog in that sense. But I just run through those 3 questions in my head. Is he focused? Is he able to eat food? Is he comfortable, not showing me any signs of stress? If that's the case, is he voluntarily participating? And I just run through that within a couple of seconds. I run through all of those in my head. I just kind of analyze the behavior. And then if all that looks good, I get to keep moving. I get to keep touching him and petting him and loving on him. Now, I did stop the camera in between him revoking consent and this exercise. I will be honest, you have to take my word for it. There was about 20 seconds in between. It literally just stopped the camera, set it up somewhere else, and then he came back and wanted to participate. So it's really quick to go from a non-consensual based contact to consensual based contact. You have to make sure that you're reading all those signs. See here how he's being mouthy? So this isn't that he's revoking consent because I'm not touching him. This is that he's starting to get a little frustrated. So think about before when I was petting him and he started mouthing me, that was him getting a little bit frustrated. In that context, it was because I was touching him and he wanted me to stop. In this context, he's getting frustrated because I'm not engaging with him and he would like me to continue. So I don't treat that the same way, even though it looks like the same behavior. That's kind of going down a different rabbit hole than what we're focusing on right now. But the idea is, if you're calm and relaxed, you're giving consent, then I get to handle you. If you're not giving consent, I'm not going to handle you unless I have to, unless it's an emergency situation and I had to handle him. But otherwise, I want to spend the time to set up a consent-based handling session rather than just going in and touching without having that kind of permission from him. Again, in an emergency situation, absolutely, I'm going to go in and grab him if I need to. You know, if I needed to go and pick him up for some reason, I absolutely can do that. It's just, I don't want that to be the majority of my engagement with him. I don't want most of the time to be invading his space and doing something he's not comfortable with. Most of the time, I want to be doing consent-based handling. So for those occasional times where I have to do, how I think about it as a withdrawal from that trust account, when I have to do that big withdrawal with something he's not comfortable with, I want to make sure we have a really positive balance so that doesn't affect our relationship overall. So that's just something to think about. That was a nice little video of him revoking consent in a relatively passive way. I mean, he was being, I guess not passive. It just wasn't that intense, right? So he was doing little head dodges. He was kind of avoiding me. He got a little mouthy and a little worked up. But even then, I mean, he's not biting me. He's mouthing. He's just barely touching me with his teeth, which still isn't appropriate. But it's not biting, right? He's not like growling at me and launching at me in the whole picture. He is, in his mind, very politely asking me to not do that. So I need to kind of pay attention to that and make sure I'm being respectful of that. So now he's gone. He's doing something else. He's having a moment with something that's on the shelf. He's kind of weirded out about it. But yeah, so I'm not going to keep petting now because he's already said, okay, I'm done. I want to go do something else. If I wanted to restart the exercise, I could call him over and see if we could restart. But in that context, if I did call him over and he got his treat for his recall, which I would still pay for, and then I went to do a consent test for a handling exercise and he said no, then that would be the end of it. Again, unless I had to touch him for some reason. So we might as well try that right now. Oliver, hi. Good boy. So I'm going to pay him for coming back over because he responded to that. And then I will set up my little exercise. So I tend to just kind of sit here with arms nice and calm. And if he restarts, then we can do this again. Nice boy. Nice. All right, are you all done? Go free. There you go. Alrighty, so hopefully that gives you some information and kind of clarifies some things for you. Oh gosh, sorry. Oh God, he's eating out of my treat pouch. So you can kind of see what the difference there between a dog giving consent for being touched and a dog not giving consent for being touched. And kind of think about that with your own dogs. Do we need to maybe build up a little bit more in that trust account? Or are our dogs pretty comfortable and we don't necessarily need to focus on that quite so much? We're getting this again, this mouthiness. So I'm going to give him some direction. Oliver, sit. And see, he's like, no thanks. Yes, good boy. And see if there's a different way we can engage. If you guys want more information about the mouthy behavior, I have that Teething and Tantrums webinar that is really good, that talks about all kinds of different games you can play with them to help really work on that mouthiness. So that's something we're just starting with him now. And so excited to see what an impact that makes on this little guy and all of his teethers, because he's got lots of teethers and he likes to use them. Good boy. Go find it. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.